history and a rich tradition. Our mission is to promote the understanding, development, and good practice of statistics worldwide. This is reflected in our slogan, Statistical Science for a Better World. The Institute was founded in London in 1885 by 81 prominent statisticians from government EMEA. At present, the ISI family includes members from over 100 countries and 7 international associations specializing in different areas of statistical science. Worldwide, we are linked with banks, international statistical agencies, and we have consultative status at the United Nations. We provide a welcoming environment for advancing statistical knowledge and learning best practices, for sharing state-of-the-art developments, and for creating opportunities to network. Our flagship event is the biennial ISI's World Statistics Congress, where several thousand statisticians from around the globe meet to exchange and explore new ideas and to network. The World Statistics Congresses are organized by different countries, and the hosts invest tremendous effort into making sure the conference is a memorable occasion for participants. Our Declaration of Professional Ethics provides a framework for statistical professionals to make individual decisions based on common values and experiences. We have prestigious awards to recognize the achievements and accomplishments of statisticians. We support members from our many international conferences. We also develop and deliver other statistical capacity building programs to promote the careers of women and young statisticians. Become part of the ISI family, feel connected to the worldwide community of statisticians, and help build a better world through statistical science. Join us at isi-web.org.
The Hague is the capital of the South Holland province, and with its 524,882 inhabitants, the third largest municipality in the Netherlands after Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The Hague is popular for its 11 kilometers of coastline, for its parks, and for its international atmosphere. It is the Dutch city without walls, and it's called the International City of Peace and Justice. The Hague is one of the most impressive cities in the Netherlands. It has a great cosmopolitan feel, and is also full of hidden gems that lie off the beaten track. You can visit many world-class museums here. In the Escher Museum, wander around freely in the artist's imaginary world.
Coming to The Hague for the first time is a rich experience. It's a fun adventure. But you have to decide where you might want to start. My first visit, I knew exactly where I wanted to start, and it was the Escher Museum. I couldn't imagine a better place to begin because I love the work of Escher. I love these prints that I saw as a kid growing up. I love seeing the complexity, seeing the waterfall. This sense of the infinite in his work was one that I just fell in love with.
Painter Museum, you can enjoy the brightly colored art of Mondrian. Last but not least, come and see the girl with the pearl earring at the Maurits House. It's right next to our parliament.
Look behind me. There are lots of empty seats. There won't be in 2021 because you're going to be there. You're going to be one of thousands of delegates that are going to be joining the International Statistical Institute at the World Statistics Congress that will be hosted at the World Forum in The Hague. In past years, we've had more than 120 countries represented by delegates. What an exciting time to interact with your colleagues from around the world. We have a rich scientific program that includes invited sessions, contributed sessions, short courses, tutorials, times to meet with friends and colleagues outside of here. The networking opportunities are unbelievable. We'll have special events for young statisticians. We'll have events for women in statistics. We're trying to have a space that is going to be welcoming to the entire world, statistical world at that, but beyond. That in statistics,
Namaku Riri. Aku lulus sebagai sarjana sains terapan dalam bidang statistik di Jakarta dan sekarang mengabdi sebagai seorang statistisi muda di Ternate. Tak bisa dipungkiri, lahir dan tumbuh di ibu kota membuatku memiliki ketakutan untuk menjalani kehidupan di luar Jawa. And here I am, 3,000 kilometers from home. Indonesia ternyata lebih indah dari gambar di peta dan media. Kehidupan yang lebih sepi dari Jawa ternyata tidak semenakutkan yang kukira. Aku memang sempat tak tahu kemana harus kubawa pendidikan dan karirku. Sampai kapan aku tinggal di pulau sejauh ini dari ayah dan ibuku. Aku juga tak tahu bagaimana cara meneruskan sekolah. Kemudian ada ajakan untuk bergabung di grup WhatsApp tentang beasiswa. SB namanya, Sharing Beasiswa. Dari cerita-cerita beasiswa seniorku di grup itu, aku kemudian tahu pekerjaan ini adalah proses. Kehidupanku di luar Jawa adalah bekal untuk mendewasakan ilmu dan kemampuanku menyelesaikan masalah. Masalah dalam perstatistikan di daerah, juga masalah di dalam kehidupan luar kantor. Terima kasih SB. Dengan informasi yang ada, saya tahu semua proses tidak diburu-buru. Perjuangan para senior yang sudah lebih dulu berangkat membuat saya memiliki willingness untuk membentuk diri dan kemampuan akademik dan non-akademik di sini. Semoga dapat terus memberikan kontribusi terbaik untuk negeri. Salam dari Timur Indonesia.
diverse and vibrant organization with a long history and a rich tradition. Our mission is to promote the understanding, development, and good practice of statistics worldwide. This is reflected in our slogan, Statistical Science for the World. The Institute was founded in London in 1885 by 81 prominent At present, the ISI family includes members from over 100 countries and 7 international associations specializing in statistical science. Worldwide, we are linked to statistical offices and societies, central banks, international statistical agencies, and we have consultative status at the United Nations. We provide a welcoming environment for advancing, for sharing state-of-the-art developments, and for creating opportunities to network. Our flagship event is the biennial ISI's World Statistics Congress, where several thousand statisticians from around the globe meet to exchange and explore new ideas and to network. The World Statistics Congresses are organized by different countries, and the hosts invest tremendous effort into making sure the conference is a memorable occasion for participants. Our Declaration of Professional Ethics provides a framework for statistical professionals to make individual decisions based on common values and experiences. We have prestigious awards to recognize the achievements and accomplishments of statisticians. We support members from developing countries to attend our many international conferences. We also develop and deliver other statistical capacity building programs, regional workshops, mentoring programs, and activities to promote the careers of women and young statisticians. Become part of the ISI family, feel connected to the worldwide community of statisticians, and help build a better world through statistical science. Join us at isi-web.org.
To The Hague, the beautiful city behind the dunes. The Hague is the capital of the South Holland province, and with its 524,882 inhabitants, the third largest municipality in the Netherlands after Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The Hague is popular for its 11 kilometers of coastline, for its parks, and for its international atmosphere. It is the Dutch city without walls, and is called the International City of Peace and Justice. The Hague is one of the most impressive cities to visit in the Netherlands, of hidden gems that lie off the beaten track. You can visit many world-class museums here. In the Escher Museum, you can wander around freely in the artist's imaginary world.
Coming to The Hague for the first time is a rich experience. It's a fun adventure, and you have to decide where you might want to start. My first visit, I knew exactly where I wanted to start, and it was the Escher Museum. I couldn't imagine a better place to begin because I love the work of Escher. I love these prints that I saw as a kid growing up. I love seeing the complexity, seeing the waterfall. This sense of the infinite in his work was one that I just fell in love with.
At the Gemeente Museum, you can enjoy the brightly colored art of Mondrian. Last but not least, come and see the girl with the pearl earring at the Maurits House. It's right next to our parliament.
Look behind me. There are lots of empty seats. There won't be in 2021 because you're going to be there. You're going to be one of thousands of delegates that are going to be joining the International Statistical Institute at the World Statistics Congress that will be hosted at the World Forum in The Hague. In past years, we've had more than 120 countries represented by delegates. What an exciting time to interact with your colleagues from around the world. We have a rich scientific program that includes invited sessions, contributed sessions, short courses, tutorials, times to meet and colleagues outside of here. The network statisticians will have events for women in statistics. We're trying to have a space that is going to be welcoming to the entire world, statistical world at that, but beyond. If you're interested in making good decisions using data, if you're interested in statistics, data science, official statistics, applications from any sector of the world, this is the place that you want to be, and we want you to be here. So we look forward to seeing you at the World Statistics Congress in 2021 at the World Forum in The Hague, City of Peace and the City of Justice.
I'm Anne Krimper, the ISI Director. Here we are in ISI Permanent Office in The Hague to welcome statisticians and data scientists from all over the World Statistics Congress. So mark your calendar for July 2021 to come to the Netherlands, and you will be amazed to see and the city of The Hague have to offer you. Wherever you're from, whoever you love, we welcome you.
International Statistical Institute, ISI, a diverse and vibrant organization with a long history.
My name is Enilce Menezes de Souza, and since 2009, I'm a PhD professor at the Department of Statistics, University of Maringá in Brazil. Currently, I am in the coordination of our graduate program in biostatistics. In this program, we work together in research with several other areas in our university, such as health sciences, medicine, dentistry, biology, zootechny, environmental and agricultural engineering, among others. We have an interdisciplinary goal that is to prepare students to make appropriate planning, using and developing adequate statistical methodologies to obtain robust and reliable results. So we want to prepare people to solve real problems in different areas. Thus, our goal is in agreement with the International Statistical Institute, ISI slogan, that is, statistical science for a better world. But to be updated and connected to this globalized world, it's very important to be a member of ISI. Being an ISI member, we can increase our network with statisticians from academy, research organizations, business and industry, etc. Besides, to keep in touch with our network, we have discounts to attend international conferences and workshops organized by ISI associations. We also receive every month the latest news about ISI activities and statistical events, not only those organized by ISI. Another important advantage is to have open access to several online publications. So, in my opinion, we have a lot of benefits of being an ISI member, and that is very important for our career and professional development. Furthermore, we can enhance the visibility of statistics to this world without borders and in constant change. Thank you.
Namaku Riri. Aku lulus sebagai sarjana sains terapan dalam bidang statistik di Jakarta dan sekarang mengabdi sebagai seorang statistisi muda di Ternate. Tak bisa dipungkiri, lahir dan tumbuh di ibu kota membuatku memiliki ketakutan untuk menjalani kehidupan di luar Jawa. And here I am, 3,000 kilometers from home. Indonesia ternyata lebih indah dari gambar di peta dan media. Kehidupan yang lebih sepi dari Jawa ternyata tidak semenakutkan yang kukira. Aku memang sempat tak tahu kemana harus kubawa pendidikan dan karirku. Sampai kapan aku tinggal di pulau sejauh ini dari ayah dan ibuku. Aku juga tak tahu bagaimana cara meneruskan sekolah. Kemudian ada ajakan untuk bergabung di grup WhatsApp tentang beasiswa. SB namanya, sharing beasiswa. Dari cerita-cerita beasiswa seniorku di grup itu, aku kemudian tahu pekerjaan ini adalah proses. Kehidupanku di luar Jawa adalah bekal untuk mendewasakan ilmu dan kemampuanku menyelesaikan masalah. Masalah dalam statistikan di daerah, juga masalah di dalam kehidupan luar kantor. Terima kasih SB. Dengan informasi yang ada, saya tahu semua proses tidak diburu-buru. Perjuangan para senior yang sudah lebih dulu berangkat membuat saya memiliki willingness untuk membentuk diri dan kemampuan akademik dan non-akademik di sini. Semoga dapat terus memberikan kontribusi terbaik untuk negeri. Salam dari Timur Indonesia.
Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Mega Kelana, member of SB community and currently working as a statistician in Statistics Indonesia. I am very delighted and happy to joining you all in the collaborating webinar of SB community and Young Statistician of International Statistical Institute entitled COVID-19 from a Statistical Point of View. I hope everyone, wherever you are, is safe and staying well in this pandemic situation. As we all knew, people around the world are engaged in this crisis in a various different situation. Therefore, SB Community is organizing a fundraising project to help those who are struggling with the COVID-19 in Indonesia. Please visit s.bps.go.id/donasi_SB to donate. Before we get started, I'd like to ask everyone to remain silent while the speakers are speaking. So please ensure to mute the microphone on your gadgets. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several sessions for today's agenda as follows. First, opening speech by Olivia van Dijk Timbol and Mara Sherlin of International Statistical Institute. Second, keynote speech by Suharyanto, the Chief Statistician of Statistics Indonesia. Third, presentation from our speakers, Setia Pramana of Statistics Indonesia and Marlene Weiner of Statistics Austria. And the last, closing remark by the SB community representative. Before we started, I'd like to once again remind you to ensure to mute the microphone on your gadgets. Fellow participants, for our first agenda, I'd like to invite Olivia van Dijk Timbol, the Association Officer of International Statistical Institute, for the opening speech. Please, Olivia, the time is yours.
Good day, everyone. I'm honored to join you today for another event filled with knowledge. I am currently the Recruitment and Operations Officer of the International Statistical Institute, and I am here today on behalf of the ISI. I also would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Suharyanto, the Chief Statistician of Indonesia. Did I say it right? Our director, our president, and the whole ISI community want to extend their gratitude to your valuable contribution for today's event. Let me read to you the message of Professor John Baylor, the ISI president. One month ago, I was visiting the statistical colleagues from around the world, the vibrant city that never sleeps, New York City. Today, the streets of this city are empty, and like the most of you, I'm working from home with daily video conferences to interact on projects. ISI continues to work hard with activities related to planning WSC 2021, determining WSC 2023 location options, investigating enhancements to our web presence, and supporting activities of our community during these uncertain and evolving times. I thank our permanent office staff for their hard work supporting us from their homes. Last month, we had an ISI Council call where we had updates about the International Year of Women in Statistics and Data Science. Happy 200th birthday, Florence Nightingale, from ISI Counselor Jessica Utz, and about the Working Group on Data Science from IASC President and Council Member Georgian Simanse. I am very grateful to these leaders and members of these work groups for their efforts on behalf of ISI. In addition to these reports, the Council discussed ideas for recruiting new members, both regular and elected, and for recruiting sponsors. One test that ISI, and in fact, all professional societies need to address is why join a professional society when most of it, not all of the benefits of a society are available online. Bob Rodriguez, ISI elected member and former ASA of a society are available online. Bob Rodriguez, ISI elected member and former ASA president, made the distinction between values and benefits. The tangible benefits of journal access are not as important now as during the days when you only receive publications by post. The values of membership continue: connection, community, and impact. ISI has given me much. It has made the world, particularly the statistical world, feel more connected. Interacting with statisticians from around the world and who work in areas and associations that differ from mine has expanded my thinking about our discipline. I have connections to colleagues and communities around the world that I would not have known otherwise. Ironically, this includes colleagues in my own country. Our voices together will have more impact than our separate voices. ISI can be a voice to promote our discipline to the next generation of statisticians and can be an advocate for the legitimate practice of statistics around the world. I am a proud member of my National Statistical Society, and I am delighted to engage as a world citizen in the ISI. I am encouraged by individuals and organizations around the world who are supporting their colleagues with their generous sharing of resources. publishers are making available research work related to COVID-19, and newspapers are removing coverage from behind firewalls to provide up-to-date stories about the pandemic. As part of my continuing professional education, I recently participated in a 4-hour, 2-part YouTube webinar related to ggplot2 and extensions that Thomas Lynn Pedersen taught. And I am participating in two courses courses related to programming. I encourage all of you to use these days of social distancing to find opportunities to grow professionally and personally. Let me close by expressing gratitude to those healthcare workers and public health leaders who are working to lessen the suffering of those impacted by this pandemic. And I weep for those workers who have lost jobs or been furloughed during these uncertain days. I hope that these workers, you and your family will stay healthy. I look to the near future when we will be able to shake hands and warmly welcome each other again. Again, on behalf of the ISI, welcome to this webinar.
Thank you, Olivia. Now, I'll hand it over to Mara Sherlyn, the president of Young Statistician of the International Statistical Institute, to deliver her opening speech. Please, Mara, the time is yours.
Hi, good day. I'm very grateful to everyone who gave their precious time to attend to this webinar. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Chief Statistician of Indonesia, and to our speakers, thank you so much. You are the main highlight of this event. Thank you for your dedication to help the growth of young statisticians without asking for anything in return. Your works really inspire us to do better and motivate the young statisticians to follow these good deeds in the future. I also like to take this opportunity to thank the University of the Philippines and my own alma mater, the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Thank you for hosting this Zoom webinar, and to Mr. John Eric Dow, who's helping us with all the technicalities. I would also like to thank the SB community who put great effort into this event. If I'm not mistaken, they will still hold future events like this. I really do appreciate their good ethics in the work and how they handle responsibilities. Great job. On behalf of the Young Statisticians Committee, I thank all of you. Just a brief background about this event. Before this COVID-19 pandemic, the Young Statisticians Committee of ISI is conducting an annual regional workshop since 2017. So in Morocco, Taiwan, and then last year in Malaysia. But this year, since we know that physical meetings are not doable, so we decided to shift to virtual workshop. I wish we can finally see each other face to face, especially on the 63rd World Statistics Congress, and hopefully we can host annual workshop there at The Hague, Netherlands. So as you can see, young stat is still young, and that's why our theme is COVID-19 from a statistical point of view. So I am thankful that SB community is on same page with us and having same mission. With that, we decided to have some collaboration and bring this webinar to you. So without further much ado, let me welcome you all, and let's start this webinar.
Thank you, Mara, for sharing it with us. For our next session, I'd like to invite our keynote speakers, Suharyanto, the Chief Statistician of Statistics Indonesia, to address the keynote speech. To Suharyanto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Media. Hello. Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy. It is really a pleasure for me to be here to join with all of you in this webinar. As we know, the outbreak of pandemic COVID-19 all over the world has disturbed the social and economic conditions, changing people's behavior, and also affected religious practices in many countries. In this uncertainty condition, it is very difficult to estimate how huge the impact of the pandemic to socio-economic life. Let's take an example of its impact on economic growth. The official figure released by National Statistics Office shocked the market because no one expects such a bad figure. For example, in China, in the first quarter 2019, the economic growth in China is 6.4%, but in quarter 1 2020, the economic growth in China experienced contraction until 6.8%. Another example is in the United States of America. I was in New York on 6 March in order to attend United Nations Statistics Commission. At the time, the situation looked normal, little bit panic, but it's okay. And suddenly, the economic growth in the United States dropped from 2.7% to 0.3%. Indonesia is no exception. In quarter 1 2019, economic growth in Indonesia is 5.07%, but this year dropped to 2.97%. My point is that the impact of pandemic on the economic and social impact is very, very huge. We know that many policies have to be implemented by many countries in order to combat the pandemic. But it is not easy. On one side, the government has to give priority to the health of the people by implementing many policies, such as a lockdown, in order to delay the spread of the virus. But on the other side, the government has to think how to allow the economy to still function. Suppressing the epidemic, but allowing the economy to still function is very difficult and require key decisions. In order to make decisions, accurate statistics is a must. The role of statistics to handle COVID-19 is very important and cannot be underestimated, because statistics provide essential data to be used in various aspects. If there is no statistic, there is no information, and there is no intervention. There is no story to be told without statistics. In this opportunity, I will show you several slides, several statistics, which I present in the front of the ministry and also parliament meeting to see the impact of COVID-19 in order to give early warning to the policymaker to understand how huge the impact of the COVID-19 to the social and economic condition in Indonesia. The data I presented here are collected using different sources during the pandemic. For example, we use phone interview, we use email and website, we use administrative data, and we also use the big data. But for the big data, I will leave it to Setia Pramana. We will give another talk later. So let's see the first indicator. How much COVID-19 changed the way we live. In order to understand the effect of the pandemic to the income and expenditure, to understand the effect of the pandemic in order to change the expenditure pattern, and also to understand whether people practice healthcare during the pandemic, PBS Statistics Indonesia has conducted a special survey in April 2020. We invite people to join to our webline survey, and after cleansing the data, the number of the respondents is around 87,000 people. What we can see from this survey, most of the people understand and implement the policy of physical distancing policy, and most of them also stay at home. Most of the society in Indonesia wearing masks during the pandemic, indicating that they understand of the threat. They avoid shaking hands, they avoid long queues, they're using hand sanitizer, they wash hand the using public transportation increase and also keep distance for at least 2 meters. In general, the result is quite convincing and quite promising, meaning that the people of Indonesia really understand the threat and try to avoid it by implementing the behavior. But if we go to the detail, we can understand then that the woman is more disciplined than the man. And one the only problem we have, it's very rare for Indonesian society to use glove. I don't know what's the reason, but not many people using glove during COVID. Another information we get from this survey, we can see that 54% of the people suggested that their income is decreased. We can see it in the next slide. 54% income people is decreased, and most of them now stay at home, washing hands, and they are very rare to go outside. As a result, the expenditure behavior is also changing. We can see there that most of the people say that the expenditure for the foodstuff, for the medical care, and also for telephone, internet bill increase. We understand because we have to work from home, so the use of internet increase or jump quite significantly. On the other hand, the expenditure for the transportation decrease, and then also for the fuel decrease. As a statistician, we have to pay attention on this changing behavior, because this changing behavior will affect the inflation rate, and at the end will affect to the consumption of household, which is a very important component in Indonesia economic growth. So using the result of the survey, the government maybe need to do socialize in different part of the country, even though in general, people already implement healthcare, but it's very rare people to using gloves. And then we have to think that people have to make some policies in order to have people to make their income go back just before the COVID-19 spread. The impact of COVID-19 is also due to the tourism and its support activities. We can see in the next slide. For your information, that Indonesian government officially released that the first case of COVID-19 in Indonesia in early March, but we can see from this picture, even though officially the first case is released in the early March, the impact already started at the beginning of February. And we are talking about the tourism. We can see that the number of the foreign visitors in Indonesia dropped very quickly. If we compare it with the figure last year, it dropped 64%. And we also can identify by nation which tourists decrease. For example, from China, it decreased 97%. From Hong Kong, decreased by 96%. From Kuwait, from United Emirates Arab, and from across the world, because a lot of countries implement a lockdown, and they also do cancellation for their transportation. Considering this figure, we can understand or we can estimate that the supporting activities for the tourism in Indonesia will collapse. We can see that the room occupancy rate declining very quickly. Economic creative also decrease, and then the threat of the layoff, and it affect the transportation, trade sector, etc. We can see how much the impact of COVID-19 to the transportation, which is the main support of the tourism in the next slide. Starting in February, the trend of railway passenger dropped 34%. The trend of the airline passenger for domestic dropped 45%. But if we see the international airline passenger drop 63%. So from this figure, I have to say it's quite scary. And the impacts already represented in the economic growth, which is far beyond our expectation. However, the government also very concerned with the logistics. So even though the number of the passenger decreased, but the government still try to make the logistic work. So the number of logistic in February, March, and also April still grow quite quickly, because this is very important, especially in Indonesia. Currently, we are celebrating Ramadan, and by the end of this month, we will celebrate Idul Fitri, which is a big moment for the Muslim society in Indonesia. Another impact of the COVID-19 is to the inflation rate, which is very, very unusual. Its rate this month. Usually during Ramadan, the demand of the people will increase, and the government have to try to supply the stock, and usually the inflation rate will increase quite significantly. But it's not happened this year. We can see that the inflation rate decreased, and if we explore this pattern further detail, we can see that actually the supply of food is okay, because the government already prepared, started 2 months ago. But from the demand side, we can see it's weakened, showing that the purchasing power parity from the society is also weakened, which is reflected in the decrease of core inflation. So during using this inflation rate, the government create a lot of policies, and all of the budget the government will be used in order to achieve 3 objectives. The first one is for the healthcare. The second one is the increase of the social protection. And the third one, we have to help the micro business, because they are especially as got the worst impact of the COVID. Lastly, using the impact of COVID-19 to the labor, this is the official figure from the Ministry of Labor, but PBS Statistics Indonesia also use big data. Setia Permana will show it later. We can see that the impact of COVID-19 to labor is huge. Until the end of March, the number of impacted workers is more than 2 million. And if we split it again, we can see the informal sector and formal sector. Of course, formal sector is larger in this picture, because it's very, very difficult to capture the information from informal sector. But for sure that the informal worker, whether wage worker or self-employment, are among the group which is most at risk of losing their job and income. So considering what happened, based on all of this data and also data from other sources, the government of Indonesia create many policies in the hope that the COVID-19 can end in Indonesia by July 2020, and then we have to create so many policies in order to recover the economy from the impact. So once again, in the conclusion, everyone, that the role of statistics to handle COVID-19 is very important and cannot be underestimated, because statistics provide essential data to be used in various aspects. Once again, if there is no statistic, we don't have information, and it will be difficult to do intervention. And there is no story to be told without statistics. So please, everyone, do some deep analysis using available resources, and let's try to inform our finding to the society. Using this one, we can help and we can contribute how to handle COVID-19 using accurate data. I end my speech here, and I hope everyone will have a fruitful discussion. Once again, thank you very much for inviting us to join with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Suharyanto, for the insights. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to say we are honored and thankful that you are willing to spare the time between your packed schedules to being here with us. You are pleased if you want to leave and if you want to leave the webinar to continue with your following schedules. Once again, thank you, sir. Our next sessions will be moderated by our moderator, Dia Ikawati, the head of Demographic Statistics Evaluation and Reporting Section of Statistics Indonesia. Dia Ikawati, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mega. Good afternoon, Mr. Suharyanto, the Chief Statistician of Statistics Indonesia. And good afternoon, Olivia van Dijk Timbel, the representative of the International Statistical Institute, and also Mara Sherlin, the president of Young Statistical of the International Statistical Institute. Thank you very much for managing your valuable time, especially in this weekend, to join today's webinar, and we are very grateful for that. Hello, everyone. My name is Dia. I'm from BPS Statistics Indonesia, and I will be moderating today's webinar entitled COVID-19 from a Statistical Point of View. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for joining today's webinar. Hopefully you are staying healthy wherever you are, and also happy fasting for the Muslim participants. I look at the database of the participants. Around 524 people are joining today's webinar, and I applaud ISI and also SD for this success. The global COVID-19 crisis is affecting operation across the entire global statistical system. This situation presents the increased demand for statistics to manage pandemic and also its impact. Because understanding and controlling the spread of COVID-19 is critically dependent on the availability of timely, high-quality data. This is addressing the increased need for data openness and also accessibility in order to help government to plan, to protect lives, and also to reduce the impact on the economy. In both the government and in the public response to COVID-19, data or statistics is more important than ever. There will be no story to be told without statistics, like Mr. Suharyanto said before. And statistics will help to fight this COVID-19 for surely. However, the currently available data are largely observational or maybe only focus on the very specific group of population, much of it derived from the testing. On the other hand, the NSO also faced some challenges in the data collection and also in the research activity in terms of methodology and also the accuracy and the level of detail available of the data. Even some statistics activities will need to be postponed or delayed, or maybe even to be suspended. Then come big questions. What about data that we need to inform decision maker but haven't got yet, or we can call it the known unknown? How well is official statistics equipped for giving support to experts from other fields? How big is the challenge of COVID-19 for the official statistics? Will there be new normal for official statistics after this pandemic? And many more other questions. And those are what we are going to discuss today. So first, we are going to have presentation and later on followed by discussion. So you are welcome to type all of your questions in the QA menu at any time during presentation, and I will read them out during the discussion session. Type your name, affiliation, and then the presenter that you are referring to, and then followed by your question. Please make it short and to the point. So everyone, in this webinar, we are delighted to have two amazing presenters. Both of them are statisticians, but come from different countries and also different expertise. Good afternoon, Setia Pramana and also Merlin Weiner. Thank you very much for managing your time to share with us today. Setia Pramana from BPS Statistics Indonesia is known as the expert of big data in Indonesia. He is head of Subdirectorate Statistical Modeling Development in the Statistics Indonesia and also associate professor in the Polytechnic Statistika SIS Jakarta. He obtained his PhD Statistical Bioinformatics at Hasselt University and later on worked as a postdoctoral researcher at the Karolinska Institute, Stockholm. His current research interests include big data analytics and development for public policy, computational statistics, machine learning and artificial intelligence, and statistical software development. And our second speaker, Merlin Weiner, from the Statistik Austria, is known as the author of the 2019 YSP Award paper called Be a Detective for a Day, How to Detect Falsified Interviews with Methods of Statistics. She has a master's degree in statistics and mathematics and economics from the Technical University of Vienna and a master's degree in teacher training for physical education and mathematics from the University of Vienna and the Technical University of Vienna. Her final thesis was awarded in the category of Applied Statistics from the Austrian Society of Statistics. So, Setia will speak first and then followed by Merlin. Your time to present is 20 minutes each, and then we will later on followed by discussion. Setia will talk about beyond the COVID-19, the official statistics way forward, and Merlin will talk about estimating the unknown number of COVID-19 cases in Austria. Sound interesting, right? So please, Setia, the time is yours.
Okay, can you hear me? Let me check.
Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you, Ika, for the time. And good afternoon, everyone, and good morning, goedemorgen in Holland, and also good morning in Austria. So it's a great pleasure to be in this webinar. We observe a lot of plenty of observation participant here, more than 500. It could be on in other words. And we have already our speaker, Pak Suharyanta, which actually present the needs of official statistics for COVID-19 handling. So my talk actually will be more on the how the official statistics after COVID-19 pandemic. Let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So as mentioned before, that almost 3.8 million people have been confirmed to have a COVID-19 around the world. And this already almost 150 countries have confirmed to have the case of COVID-19. And Indonesia, we have also starting from the mid, or I think in the beginning of March, right? So these numbers showing based on the data, we can have a different 19 handling. And if you look at the data from Indonesia, go to the next slide, please. Next, yeah. we have 12,000 confirmed cases, and then it's around almost 1,000 have been died because of this COVID-19, and then the numbers of cases, almost all province, and then almost all the province have the confirmed cases. So the numbers that we observe here actually is official data obtained from different stakeholders, and BPS are involved, as mentioned before by our keynote speaker. And this information is needed for the government policymaker to have good policy and also to observe the impact of COVID-19 in all Indonesia. Let's go for the next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the spread of COVID-19 all Indonesia. Actually, the data I took it 2 days ago. So if we distribute that across all the regencies in Indonesia, almost all regencies have the cases ranging from 0 to the highest at 100 cases, and the epicenter of cases are in Metropolitan, Jakarta Metropolitan or Jabodetabek, which is actually the red dot over there, and the Java Island, and then its surrounding cities, its surrounding province like Banten, and also West Java, also have really high cases. This showing that we need to take serious the COVID-19, and the impact will be immense. I think Pak Suharyanto already mentioned the impact on economics and how people behavior, how the impact on the different sectors, right? And let's go to the next slide. Let's take a look for different perspective of different. So this is the changes of mobility. I took the data from Google Mobility because of COVID-19. Google provide data of mobility in different working space based on tracing our mobile. So the changes in mobility, the y-axis are the province and the x-axis are dates, and the dots here represent the baseline from the percentage from baseline, the normal. So Bali and the top one, showing that the Bali have big impact on mobility, because in the beginning of, I think already mentioned by Chu before, that the number of flights reduced, and also the number of tourists from abroad, especially China, which is actually the second largest tourist, is already lower. So the Bali have impact on working space here. Jakarta, the second one, showing from the mid of March, because of the policy of working from home, right? Working from home started on the 17th or 16th of March, and after that, people tend to work from home, so it reduced the numbers. The lighter the color means that the lighter the change from baseline, the smaller change from baseline. So it's minus 60 to 70% of the previous months. But not the case from, for example, North Maluku and also Riau Island and also Central Kalimantan. They tend to have still some workings, people working on the mid of March until mid of April. Let's go for if this is mobility on the working space, working places, how about in the next, please? Next, yeah, residential areas. So this number is showing different, from working areas, people moving to residential area, even though they are staying at home, right? But they still work, they still doing mobility, like maybe doing some sport or doing some small activities around the residential area. It's quite different when we don't have any policy of working from home. In March, less people are in the residential area, especially during the day. But then during April and May, we observe especially Jakarta, Bali, Banten, the epicenter of Jakarta, Bali, and Jakarta, Banten, and West Java, the epicenter of COVID-19 cases, epidemics. We see that people tend to stay at home, and then not the case again for other areas where the COVID-19 confirmed cases is low, for such as Aceh or Central Kalimantan. Next. Next, please. Yeah. Again, in retail and recreation areas, usually we go for, we tend to go for recreation during the day or during the weekend, and we go for retail, we're going for mall, we're going for shopping areas. But now, after the mid of March, that quite big change, right? So this in the left side here is dark, dark colors, showing that in the beginning of March or in month of March, people still going for retail and recreation area. But after the confirmed cases getting higher and higher, especially Jakarta here, these areas, especially Jakarta, the recreation areas are closed during let's say semi-lockdown, and retail also closed in some regions. So showing that how the changes in mobility of the people. Next. Next, please. Yeah. People tend to stay at home again, right? So they got bored easily, right? So because they got bored easily, and then they try to get, let's say, to get access to internet. So the COVID-19 have big impact on the data usage. So from OpenSignal here, showing that before pandemic, people use their mobile access or mobile phone, not using Wi-Fi, because people are outside the building, outside the houses. But then because of a pandemic, because of some countries perform lockdown, Indonesia is only limited, let's say restriction areas or restriction activities. It's also improved or increased the data usage on using the Wi-Fi. If you look at the first table there, in the beginning of January is only 34%, and then getting increased and increased up to 35%. Right now, I don't have any numbers, but I'm sure that number will increase. But that's quite different when related to mobile speed. The mobile the mobile speed or the mobile speed of the internet, because of many people now using mobile phone for different activities, for working from home, for learning from home. So the speed decreased quite significantly in some areas. I just give like a few countries here, but if you look at Indonesia, usually the speed is 11.7 megabyte per second, but in the beginning, at the end of March, 23rd of March until 29th of March is getting lower, up to only 10 megabyte per second. It's showing the number of people like they just like using a mobile phone more often and also more frequent as compared as before. Next, please. Next is the impact of mobile traffic. I got the data from indotelco.com showing how the increase of mobile traffic on different applications. Telkom side and Excel, for example, on the 24th of March and 23rd of March, the traffic of Google Classroom is increased quite significantly, up to 2,000% as compared to the normal days. Because now even the Polytechnic Statistics we use Google Classroom. I guess also in different universities also using Google Classroom as their online learning platform. This shows again that the remote work also quite high significance, online learning significance, and also related to the entertainment. If you look at on the right side of the table, Netflix, 45% increase as compared to the normal period, and also followed by video streaming. People get bored, they stay at home, they got bored, they watch movie, they watch Netflix, they watch YouTube, right? And then they play WhatsApp, and then the big impact is actually gaming. It's 117% increase as compared to the normal day. This also actually we need to find. Usually, I remember there's a report that the increase of spend on gaming is quite significantly right now during this COVID period. Next. Now, if you look at, please, next, please. I just give some impact. Okay, Pak Suharyanto mentioned before, so I add this just now that based on the big data, we get the data from a website, right? From website that showing the numbers of jobs vacancy. So the trend of job vacancies during March and April is lower 45%. This is because of this COVID-19 again. Next, please. Yeah. So the numbers of this showing the numbers of companies that advertising the jobs, right? It also reduced significantly on 46% reduced as compared to March and February. It shows the numbers, the impact is quite big in this April. Next. Yeah, impact on flight. So we take the flight based on, again, from big data, we get the data of flight daily from different airports in Indonesia, and then the departure and arrival. Every day we use the, like say, a robot to get the data and then get the data. And we see that the numbers of flight from, this is domestic flight, from and then to Jakarta reduce or decline significantly in the beginning, the mid of March and April, beginning of April, and actually until we have really limitations, they tend to have zero flight because of the restriction by the government. But I think starting from yesterday, or from today. Next. Yeah, next please. Yeah. This is room occupancy, tingkat penghunian kamar. So daily room occupancy in 2019 as compared to 2020. The first month, the first January and also up to the February and March is getting lower and lower as compared to 2019. I don't give the figures here, but the highest impact actually Bali have the highest impact because of some. Usually last year we observe based on this is online travel agent. We usually observe 70% up to 80% of occupancy based on that website. But during this COVID-19, it's ranging between 30 to 50% occupancy. And also in some found that some less lack of tourists. That's we can that we checked to the people in the Bali. They said that's true because some hotels have been closed due to the number of tourism is very low. Next. Next, please. Yeah. Now, what will be the impact of statistical data collections, right? Actually, Budia have mentioned before during the opening remarks. Thank you for the opening remarks and also for nice introductions about me. That some survey, not some, maybe most of the survey and census have a great impact because of the restrictions, especially the survey, that face-to-face survey, right? But if you survey using some phone survey, maybe still can be done. But the survey and census usually done by face-to-face have the maximum impact to be shut down. So they'll be like interrupted or will be postponed. So the response of this, some could be redesigned. So instead of using face-to-face, we use a phone survey. So we can ask them to fill in by using the web form. And for the census, we postpone it and also redesign. BPS, we have the census, population census 2020. This year, we actually implement the combined methods, right? And then because of this COVID-19, so because of, again, the COVID-19 have impact on the economy have impact on the budget, right? So because of the cut budget, will also impact the different aspect of statistical process, including statistical data collections. So we best again change not using the face-to-face census, but rather using the online census, and also maybe using different means, using drop-off method and etc. But now, in terms of the big data, actually, our keynote speaker already mentioned that the big data right now having the increase of relevance, because now we can use different sources of big data to, let's say, to not to replace, but to complement the official statistic before. So now for this big data, we need to harness and integrate that to the conventional survey or census activities. Next, please. Yeah. Actually, not only Indonesia performed census in 2020. A lot of countries performed census in 2020 and got impacted by COVID-19. Some countries they use administrative data, so they will be fine, that much impacted. Some countries they only use, or let's say focus only on face-to-face census. They tend to postpone it at the end of this year or next year. And some countries they redesign the census into combined method or into online method, as Indonesia does. This you can, if you can see later the list of different strategies of different countries of census in 2020 because the impact of COVID-19. You can see on the UN Statistic Division website later. Next, please. So after all the COVID-19, I'm pretty sure, or also a lot of researchers, a lot of experts will say that, saying that we'll come into a new normal period. We are not going to back to the normal that we have before. The new normal here, people tend to stay at home, right? They tend to do everything online. And then we still keep our physical distancing, at least until next year. And then we try to have also about the finance, we try to find different way of getting finance, because some financial sector will get impacted, and then that's not going to be resolved easily or soon. So this new normal is also kind of a new challenge for official statistics to get the new or better statistics. Next. So I'm not saying this is good for COVID-19, but there is a blessing in disguise. Means that because of COVID-19, people are forced to to get ready or to involve in digital transformations, right? So we are accelerating the digital transformation. People usually they hesitate to use a phone to have a, let's say, buying from shops, or using a phone for online learning or for shopping. But now this digital transformation is getting faster, and then it will force us to redesign the census and the survey, because of the behavior of people are different right now. So we need to redesign the census and survey, maybe, for example, by changing the different data collections. We're not focusing only now on the face-to-face data collections. In some census, they should do that. Again, yes, that's true. But we try to find, again, maybe in some ways that we reduce to do a face-to-face survey. And then we try to find different data sources. As mentioned by our keynote speaker, big data could be one of the best data alternative data sources, which can be maybe used for not only complementing, but also maybe to improve the quality of official statistics. The big data can come from mobile phone records, credit cards, scanner data, remote sensing, etc. And again, the co-production of statistics, participatory data. I will explain that later about that co-production, because co-production means like this: the big data. Go back, please. Yeah. Big data, the data comes from different stakeholders, from different producers. So we need to ask them to participate on the production of statistics, right? It could be from the people, from the crowdsourcing, for example. We can ask from the companies who own data. For example, in Indonesia, we have Gojek, we have Agoda, we have Traveloka, or we have also different marketplace or different e-commerce platforms such as Tokopedia or Shopee, and etc. We try to co-production with them. Together with these stakeholders, with this data producer, to create a new statistic based on big data. Next. Yeah. So again, but big data have many pros and contrasts, right? It faster, right, and more frequent for disseminations, and it also can substantially reduce the non-response rates, right? And also maybe can reduce the cost of statistical productions. But next, please. But it also comes with some contrast. Yeah. This data is not a result of statistical production process designed in some standard practice, right? So usually we have standard practice for statistical production, but big data just get the data and try to find what is the best right now. And then these big data do not fit with the current methodologies, classification, and definition, and this can have a problem for like combining and harmonizing them with the previous statistic. If the previous one, the conventional, we have different methodologies, and now we have different methodologies in big data. So we try to find kind of fit between these approaches. And again, it raises a major legal issues because of the security, confidentiality, and also the data ownership of the big data. Yeah, next. So please read the book of Rademacher. It's a good book, just recently published, Official Statistics 4.0. So he explained in his book that actually statistics also have some stages, right? Just like industrial revolution, we have industrial revolution 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. But the phase 4, which actually started 2010, that including the statistic of using different data sources, like for example, open data, big data, data from social networks, and from machine-to-machine communications. So I'm not sure that all national offices right now have implemented here of official statistic 4.0, but I'm sure this will be for the next way beyond after COVID. We need to adopt official statistic 4.0, especially for Indonesia and also for different countries. Next. So what is the key of principle of official statistic 4.0? I just put these several key points. So the official statistic 4.0 means that the statistics actually should be the key for empowerment. So the statistician for us should explain, should provide how the data can be a power for information, for business case, for public policy. So the statistic is a key. So statistician or other stakeholder, we should know this. And then the second principle of official statistic 4.0 is the fundamental statistic for open data. Yeah. So the data should be open. Of course, not the data are open, but some data can be open, not confidential data, and transparent access, and about the metadata. And then we can monitor the use of information and the knowledge. The third one is the key enabler of citizen, which is data seek. So we have to promote, statisticians should promote the literacy of the data in the society, especially for how we can explain to them how the data are obtained, are collected, and how the data are being analyzed, and the methodology being used, and then how the data can be used to monitor the different aspect of development. And the third one is the future of smart statistics. This is a good thing that I really love it. We have to have smart statistics. So statistics here should continue to invest, not only use the previous one methods. We have really like a lot of methods previously, all methods, but we need also, because the new data set, the new sources, the new stakeholders, we need to invest for the new methods, algorithms, business architectures, and also business process to so it can be tailored, it can be customized using the user needs. The user needs might be different also in the future, not right now. And then the fourth one is the user participate on design, again here, production, communication of statistics. So we try to engage greater involvement of civil society in the stage of statistical productions. We don't keep everything, the data and also the process right now in our own, but rather because we are participatory data and also we have co-production, again, I mentioned before, we need to involve also people from stakeholder or different institution for statistical productions. Next, please. So I don't know whether this time is up, but this is the co-production of statistics. I really love this plot. It's again by Rademacher. You should read this book. When you design the product and program, we need participation in design. Participating means the participation on terms of the data sources, yes, and also participating in terms of the design by the academicians, by the experts, right? Not only on or not only used by the National Statistics Office, but again for production process, we use maybe open platform people can be used, and also crowdsourcing. Because we need to engage to the people, the community, that okay, see, we need your data, so the data can be used for your own goods. So the people will they will give the data willingly, share the data willingly, and by making sure that their data, the confidentiality are kept, the security, and etc. And then we need to communicate the outputs, yeah, again, the outputs, and also by using different tools. We share the data. Maybe we give the data directly. We can see the number of populations, their region by applications. PPS already done with the app statistic, where we can have the data directly in our hand with our gadgets. And also we can give the data for open. And then for decision making, we give the feedback to the government, and then we need also have a feedback from scientific support to enhance the quality of the statistics. So means that if we talk the office statistic, usually is done only by statistical offices, yeah, for example. But for example, BPS or ONS or CBS in different countries. But rather now 4.0, Strategy 4.0, again that being done by office statistic offices, but with incorporation with different stakeholders, with public, with business, and also with other sectors. Next. Bu Ika, I don't know whether it's time. No, I think this is last.
Oh, this is the last. Okay then.
Yeah, the last, right? So at the last, I'm sure most of the audience here are statisticians and working for National Statistic Office. We must adopt the rapid transition in era digitization and globalizations. But when we change, we know we should change. Yeah, the change not only requires statistical methods, data science, and IT, but also business administration and sociological knowledge. We have to know not only how to deal with the data, the IT and the statistical methods, but how to manage the data and how to interact, how to communicate with people, and also with the stakeholder, with the government, and also with like surrounding a region, with UN, with different countries. So the data or the statistic can be disseminated nicely. Next. There's one more slide, I guess, or two more. So I just want to say that the COVID-19, this is the website of Gugus Tugas, or the Special Force of COVID-19 Indonesia. You see that different stakeholders are now trying to handle this COVID-19, which means that never think that national statistic or other stakeholder or other ministries can work alone. We should work in a group and a team, right? But that's not the easy. I'm sure I know that. And a team. So the COVID-19 can reduce again, and then after COVID-19, all the things that I mentioned before, we need also support for this stakeholder I mentioned here. Okay, next. I think that's the last slide. So I'm sure that this is our mascot of SP, Sensus Penduduk. Maybe in the next feature, everything for us for going to the field, we need to wear masks or hazard pad or everything. Maybe we change the way we behave. We also I said the tools, the appearance. I think that's all for me. Sorry for maybe too much. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Satya. That's very interesting, very influencing, very convincing presentation. So from your presentation, I can conclude that COVID-19 has a two-sided impact on the statistical activities. In one hand, it has impact in the increased demand for statistics to manage pandemic, and also in its impact because we need data how the COVID-19 influence the people's daily life and also in the economy that you shown in your presentation. On the other hand, it also affects the official statistics that regularly conducted by the NSO in the survey and also in the census. So one of your example is in the 2020 Indonesian population census. Yes, the government of the Republic of Indonesia has restricted activities outside the home and also restricted face-to-face interaction. This condition, of course, impact the PPS activities. One of them is population census 2020. coupled with government regulation regarding budgetary allocation for handling the COVID-19, that make BP Statistic Indonesia need to adjust the PC 2020's government in terms of the schedule and also in terms of the methods of activities at each stage of the process. Thank you very much, Satya. All right, then, without further ado, I will hand it over to Marlene for the next presentation. Please, Marlene, the time is yours.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for attending in this great seminar. More than 500 people, that's amazing. Thank you for the previous speakers. I'm really impressed by your analysis. And thank you also ISI Young Statisticians for organizing this seminar. Yeah, good morning from Austria. It's 9:30 in Austria right now. What will I talk about today? I will talk about estimating the unknown number of COVID-19 cases in Austria. I'm Marlene Weinauer and I work in Statistics Austria, which is the National Statistical Office of Austria. So there is 2 studies I want to present today. So we have one study where we want to find out how many people are currently infected by COVID-19 in Austria. This is for whole Austria, so we want to make an estimate for the Austrian population, how many people are really infected, because the number of unknown cases is, there is a number of unknown cases. And for the second study, I want to share with you some results that how many people live, how many people in Austria do have COVID-19 antibodies of people living in risk areas. But before I come to the studies, I start with geography. So here we have Austria in the middle of Europe, next to Italy and next to Germany. Also some positive things in these hard times. What is Austria famous for? We have the Wiener Schnitzel, very famous. Maybe you know Austria for this, Sachertorte, and also the movie Sound of Music. So to have an impression of how hard Austria was hit by Corona crisis, I want to show you our official figures first. The coronavirus started to come to Austria at the end of February. So here we had our first case, and then we had the exponential growth. We could flatten the curve very early, as we had very strict measurements from the government at already 2 weeks after the first case detected in Austria. So since March 16th, we already had very strict measurements, and then the curve could be flattened soon. So the highest number of officially infected people in Austria was about 10,000 people. In comparison, we have 9 million people living in Austria. So I want to start with the first study now. So we wanted to know how many people are currently infected by COVID-19 in Austria. I will proceed in the following way. I will tell you why we did the study. So the study was ordered by the government. Then I will tell you how we did the study. Then I will come to the results, and finally I will give some conclusions. So why we did the study? In Austria, it's quite obvious that such a study is needed, because crossing up just the number of positive cases divided by the number of tests conducted won't give us the real number of infected people. Like many people are asymptotic, and in Austria they won't receive a test if they are asymptotic. Also in Austria, to receive a test, you need to call a hotline, and some people just don't do that. Even though they have symptoms, we have a separate study on that. And even if you're symptomatic, and even if you have called the hotline in Austria, it's not sure that you will receive a test then, because there are certain criteria to be met to receive a test. For example, you need to have met a corona positive person to really receive a test, or also you need to have been in a risk area to receive a test. So I was interested to find out if this is the same also in other countries. So if you also think that the number of unknown cases is maybe much higher than the number of official figures. So I have created a Mentimeter. Please let me know if you can see it now in my browser. Do you see still the presentation, or do you see it in the browser a Mentimeter right now? Can someone tell me if you see if you still see the presentation, or if you see a survey browsed in the internet?
Still see your PDF.
No, still seeing the presentation only.
I think
you're still in the presentation. Okay, then I will share. Then
you can share screen.
Yeah, I will share it. Just take a second. So. Okay, obviously there are some problems to share the browsers, but then we just skip this part. And I'll continue with the slides. So how did we conduct the studies? We had 3 stratified, so I need to share the presentation. So I will continue with the presentation as there were some problems in sharing the Mentimeter I created. So how did we conduct the study? We had 3 stratified.
Marlene, can you please go? Marlene, can you please go one slide? Go back.
One slide?
Yeah, I would like to copy that link of Mentimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wait 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay, continue. Thank you.
Okay. So
please continue.
How we did we conduct the study? Our way was very straightforward. So we just took 3 stratified representative random samples for Austria every 3 weeks to find out how many people are really infected. Of course, the best way would be to test everyone, but in Austria, we don't have the resources for that. So the first panel where we tested a random sample of people was at the beginning of April. Then the next panel was very recently, so 2 weeks ago, we had the press conference this week. And the next panel will be in 1 month, where we just test a stratified representative random sample for Austria for we make PCR tests with them and test how many people are infected. Here are the participating organizations. So panel 2 and 3 is conducted by Statistics Austria. Panel 1 was conducted by Sora Institute, and all panels are supported by the Austrian Red Cross and the Medical University of Austria. So what were our results? Take a look back at panel 1. How was the situation there? So panel 1 was at the beginning of April, so already 1 month ago. What was the situation? We had the highest number of officially infected people in Austria by then. We had 10,000 officially infected people. Our governmental measurements were already very strict by then, because since 2 weeks we had to shut down, so we weren't allowed to leave the house, schools were closed, bars were closed, shops were closed. This was the situation 2 weeks before we took the random sample and asked and then tested a random sample of people to see how many of them were infected by COVID-19. So maybe take a second and try to guess or think for yourself and imagine how many people of our random sample, which is here on the right side, you would expect to be infected by COVID-19. Take a second, how many people you would expect to be infected. And yeah, it actually were only 6 people. So it was quite a low number of infected people in our random
एक
sample.
actually webinar सुन रहे थे 20 मिनट का. How many people are currently infected by COVID in Australia? Estimating the unknown number of COVID in Australia.
Yeah, I think we just skip the Mentimeter.
Self
It's not.
अपन को उससे.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then we had the second panel. The situation in the second panel was already quite different because the official numbers went down far. So we only had about 3,000 officially tested people by then. And the governmental measurements were the same as before. So still we had very strict limitations of leaving the house and the same measurements as before. But it was just 3 weeks later after the shutdown. And we again took a random sample and tried to find out how many people were infected by coronavirus. So maybe you can also again try to imagine how many people of our random sample here will be infected of coronavirus. So this is the very recent study we had published just last week. And also it was only one person. So in the whole sample, only one person was infected by coronavirus that had not known that he was infected. Actually, when he was asked if he thinks that he is infected by coronavirus, he said, no, he does not have coronavirus for sure. But it was a difficult situation because it is a very small number of positive events. So we asked ourselves some question, like we wanted to know, is it possible to draw a good point estimator from this? And also we wanted to know which confidence interval is best fitting for like such a small number of positive cases. In this case, only 1, and in the panel before, only 6. And we then decided to report only the upper confidence intervals to give like an upper bound of people infected per maximum. Because we said if we only have 1 positive case, it's really hard to give a point estimator. It's very uncertain. And then the second question was, which confidence interval is best fitting for this case? And it's a bit of a mathematical playground, you can imagine, as there is a diversity of possible confidence intervals, all with their pros and cons. There are some methods for confidence intervals to consider. For example, as you all know, the Klopper-Pearson interval, which is the exact interval for such a situation, but not really constructed for complex survey design. Then the bootstrap method, also very good, but not really designed for such small proportions. And a few more like logistic regression with all type interval, Rouse-Scott. We had the Korn-Graupon method, which I do like a lot, as it is a combination of the Klopper-Pearson interval for more complex survey design. All of them are implemented in the R survey package. However, I just wanted to point out it's not so easy to find the best confidence interval, but what we then decided is, as I already told you, to just give the maximum number of people infected to the press, so just the upper confidence interval. And we made a few scenarios there, and this is like one of the scenarios where you see that in panel 2, so in the survey where actually only 1 person was infected, we can conclude that per maximum about 11,000 people were infected in Austria. And here in panel 1, the gray one, that where 6 people were infected, that per maximum about 60,000 people were infected per maximum in Austria. So not as the point estimator, but per maximum. Here it is in the news, and what I like about this graph is that it combines both graphs you've seen before. So it combines the official figures with our estimated upper bounds for people infected per maximum with COVID-19. And you see then when the official figures were the highest, also the maximum number of probable infected people was way higher than then when the curve already decreased and the official figures went down, also the maximum number of probably more infected people also went down. So what can we conclude from this? Currently, a small number of people is infected by coronavirus in Austria, but still the number of unknown cases can be much higher than official data. And what we will consider for the next time is that we have to consider a scenario of zero events. So I've never thought about this before, but it's actually quite interesting that if you have a zero positive cases, of course, in a survey, of course, your confidence interval is not 0-0, but there are scenarios. And we have to consider that for the case that we may have zero events in the next case. But for panel 3, it could happen that the situation already is different by then and that we have more cases again as the governmental measurements have changed since May. And since May in Austria, we have no limitations of leaving the house and the schools open again and the shops and bars open again. So we are really curious to see how the situation will develop with this changing measurements of the government. Okay, then for the second study, which I will make a bit shorter as the time has already proceeded, we wanted to know how many people living in risk areas to have COVID-19 antibodies. So again, I will proceed in the same way. I will talk about why are we doing this, how are we doing this, what are the results, and what are the conclusions. I think the why, to find out how many people do have antibody, is quite obvious. So we wanted to know how far are we from the herd immunity in Austria. If we can have something like herd immunity, which is not clear at the moment because we don't know if we can get immune of COVID-19. What did we do, or how did we do it? We took a random sample of people, but this time this random sample is not representative for whole Austria. It's only representative for risk regions, and this is what also other international studies do. They test people in risk regions to see how many people of them living in risk regions do have corona antibody, because we would expect a higher share there of people developing corona antibody. So it is important to note that these results are not representative for whole Austria. We again took the random sample, but only for the risk regions, and made PCR tests with everyone in our sample, and also antibody quick tests, as well as blood samples for the serological test. And they were also checked with a neutralization test. So according to Medical University, with these tests, we do not have to expect false positives. So we won't overestimate the number at least. There would be the next Mentimeter, but I just skip it. What are our results of the study? We found out that in the 27 risk communes, in average, about 5% of the people have corona antibodies with a certain confidence interval. And this is according to the blood samples of serological tests. And what can we conclude from this? Like 5% of people living in risk areas having corona antibody is not really a high number. We would have expected a much higher number because in Austria there were some really hard risk areas where really many people had coronavirus. So we would have expected more people in these areas to also develop corona antibody then. But our figures seem to be similar to other figures shown in international studies. For example, there was a very famous study in Germany. It was for Gangelt in North Rhine-Westphalia, and there 14% of the people developed corona antibody. The study was somehow criticized for sample and form of the test. Then also in Stockholm, there was a study with blood donators, and there 11% of the people developed corona antibody. In the south of Netherlands, there was a similar study with blood donators, and 3% of the people there developed corona antibodies. Also in California, there was a study, 2 studies actually, and they were also a bit disputed. And after some recalculations, they came to the findings that 2.5 to 4% of all people in certain areas in California do have corona antibody. Very good study I found was a New York City study. They found 19% of the people there having corona antibody. And in comparison, but New York City also has very high prevalence of coronavirus, but in comparison in the rural areas of New York City, only 3% of the people seem to have corona antibody. So how to conclude, if it is possible for us to get immunity in Austria, we are far, far away from herd immunity at the moment. And the international studies show that it is also this case in other countries. But Austria has never really targeted to get herd immunity. What can we conclude? Like herd immunity, as most of us already have found out, seems to be an illusion, and we really need to focus on the development of medication and recognizes. Yeah, here I have some questions to the audience. Like, I would be interested, which studies like these do you have in your countries? What experiences do you have, and what other approaches do you have? Like, do you have some big data approaches or simulations or estimations through death counts to find out how many people are currently infected in your country, including unknown figures? Yeah, I think my time is already up. I want to thank everyone involved in the studies, so the Red Cross Austria, Medical University of Vienna, Sorla Institute, and Statistics Austria. I want to thank ISI Young Statisticians for this great webinar, and also I want to thank you all for your attention. Here is my email address, so if you have any questions, you can just write me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Marlene. That's very interesting presentation. So everyone, right now we are going to move to the discussion session, the session that you are waiting for, I believe. So there are a couple of questions for Mr. Suharyanto. Will that be okay, sir?
Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the first question is from Igede Heprin Prayasta, graduate students in economics, Udayana University. Indonesia economy currently is reported growth by 2.97% YOY during the first quarter of this year. And one of the largest contributor is the financial and services industries. Would you mind to explain how the industry boosts the economy, as currently people may have no money, no job, or maybe working not in the normal scheme as previously? Does the pandemic stimulate them to take the loan for consumption need? And this is also related to the second question from Adi Pradana from Indonesia as well. How long Indonesia economic can recover from this pandemic? I think that's 2 questions for the first time, sir. And for the second is for the third question is for Setia Pramana from Putri Finasela, Indonesia, from the Statistics Indonesia. How does big data can affect COVID-19 treatment or the spread of the virus, or even protecting the people effectively? Using the big data, can we predict about the time when will this pandemic end in Indonesia especially? Then every aspect such as economy, tourism, education, etc. can run normally just like before the virus spread. And the second question for Setia is from Ayu Paramudita, also from the Statistics Indonesia. It is very interesting how we can use and analyze big data. But big data is kind of unstructured data, and there is no certain concept and metadata, etc. So how we decide what kind of big data we could use to analyze and how far we could analyze it? Thank you. And question for Marlene. There is question from Ekundayo Adedoyin from Nigeria. The question is, from news across the globe, the coronavirus seems to have higher rate of spread, infection, and ultimately higher risk of death in some countries than another. Can these disparities be truly associated with genetic resilience or maybe racial differences? Also, what is the odds of death from contracting COVID-19 between male and female of some age group? And the second question is from Armando Aviles from Ecuador. What are the assumptions, constraints, and effectiveness on the models that you already mentioned before? So the first time, maybe Sir Suharyanto, please, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I will see the structure of the Indonesian economic. Indonesian economic rely on the four biggest sector: industry, which contribute 14%, agriculture, which contribute 13%, and then trade contribute 13%, construction 11%. So the total contribution from this four sector is around 57%. And the number of labor working in this four sector is around 68%. What does it mean? If something happened in the industry, agriculture, trade, and construction, it can affect very much to the economic growth of Indonesia. For your note that the financial insurance and services contribute 4.70%. So the question is, how will this sector, financial service, perform when everybody at the moment experience in decreased income? Is it possible for them to increase their loan in order to fill their consumption? For the quarter 1 2020, I have to mention that the performance of financial services and insurance achieved the highest performance because it grows 10.7%. This is quite high, the highest in fact in this quarter. Maybe in this situation, people will not increase their loan for the consumption. The latest data show that they switch from the consumption of non-food to food. This is what happened at the moment. So because the income is decreased, they're switching the consumption from non-food to food because this is the basic. If the consumption of non-food affect, for example, to buying clothes, etc., it's okay. But it will be very, very crucial if they also decrease the expenditure for example, education and health. So I think the loan will not increase. At the moment, the people still try to switch from non-food to food, but I don't know what will happen later. The second question, when will economic growth in Indonesia recover? The answer, nobody knows. It really depends how the government successfully combat the epidemic. In the second quarter, all of the indicators show that the indicator is worse for the manufacturing and other sector because the number of people who lost the job is increased. but the government actually already prepared the plan to recover economic in the third quarter. But how far it will be successful, again, it really depends what happened in the quarter two. Maybe that's what can I answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So next, move to Satya.
Can you hear me?
Satya?
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So I saw that. Thank you for the questions. So there are two questions, I guess. One is how big data involve the data can affect treatment, spread of even protecting people from effectively. Okay, good. So actually right now, I guess some of the participants here also involved in big data implementation for different aspects of COVID-19 treatments. There are groups by, for example, different universities. They use data from different sources, especially data of clinical data, sequencing data. I used to work with the gene sequencing data, and also clinical data, and also for using the thorax MRI data or scan data, Ronsen data, everything data to find the diagnostic tool to see whether we have a diagnostic tool for COVID-19. Because the mutations, so we talk about virus actually have really higher mutation rates. So it mutates because we need to adapt to its host. So from one person to another person, if you know the DNA of the virus, so we can know the transmission network that being also used for research right now. Why it's big? You know, sequencing in virus is also big, and also you have different samples. It's also quite big, and compare and also combine with different sources. And related to the next is how the big data can be used for protecting and people effectively, right? And predict the time. So for protecting the people effectively, Gugus Tugas or the special task have special task force have used or have developed integrated data collections, which actually from data from the BPS, data from Ministry of Health, data from BNPB, data from different stakeholders combined into one locations in one system, and that's being run and developed by Ministry of Communications, and then being analyzed to find the effective way to protecting. So there are some system being developed and launched right now and being used to track people based on using their mobile phone. So if you have the installed Peduli Lindungi or Bersatu Lawan COVID applications that actually being used to track people, the movement. So we can see based on this data, we can see which area that actually have high risk of the specific location. And so we combine with data from BPS, from official statistic related, for example, the number of people over there, the number of comorbidity over there, the number of males population over there. That's combined to so we can have the risk, and also combined with for data of here location of people who tend to gather. For example, the religious locations, for example, mosques or churches, stations, markets, that's being used to make a like kind of mapping. So the area of whether it's red area or green zone. So if you move one place to another place, so will be warned by the system. So you are going to the red zone or the dangerous area. That's being used for big data right now on the big Gugus Tugas. And using big data can predict about the time. Wow, pandemic especially. I'm not sure we can predict easily right now, because first, related to COVID, in the beginning of COVID in Indonesia, the numbers actually not representing, it's my opinion, yeah, it's not representing exactly the number of confirmed positive cases. Rather, it's representing the capacity of testing, because in the beginning we just have limited numbers of testing kits. But now, because the testing is being in all provinces, so the numbers getting growing, the number of confirmed cases, but also we know that the value, the numbers, is getting higher. So using the mathematical modeling, there are several mathematical modeling based on this data is being used now. So actually, there are plenty of approaches to predict it, but some prediction also have some limitation or some assumptions. So right now, the use of big data, as far as I know, is to track people, to make sure that people are at home, and then this information can be used for government to make a policy based on situation on the field. Kemudian, second one, it's very interesting how we can use big data and analyze big data. But okay, unstructured exactly, and unstructured and no metadata exactly. So the concept, that's true. That's why the the cons and also difficulties of big data for using the for official statistics, because the definition and also the concept and definition is quite loosely. So sometimes it's difficult to match that, but not it doesn't mean it's not possible. So we have to find the right, let's say, definition of this big data and also the conventional approach. And then how far we could analyze it. So right now we can analyze it up to give the general trend only, right? But not yet for having like exact numbers yet. Because again, as I mentioned, the representativeness, the big questions. That's actually the next challenge. I know there are some researchers right now, including in BPS, including in our neighboring countries, working on how to combine the information of big data using and also with the conventional or unstructured data. So when we combine them, it could be one way we can include the non-respondent using the big data. Also, maybe we can use like big data as the midterm information, because usually we have survey between several period, right? In between, we can have the information based on big data right now. Yeah, I think that's my answers. Is there being answers?
I think because the time is very limited, maybe we can move to the next presenter. Okay. Setia, thank you very much. Okay, Marlene, the time is yours.
I try to answer within very, very fast because the time is limited. So I hope I answer all questions and the right questions. The first one was if there can these disparities between different countries be truly associated with genetic resilience, racial differences. Well, I can't tell from this study. I don't know why it develops differently in different countries. We were lucky that we had very early measurements, but we are also neighboring country of Italy, and so how cruel the situation was there, and they were 2 weeks headed before Austria. Then there was the question, what is the odds of death from contract COVID-19 between male and female and of same age group? Very interesting question. Actually, there is a study in Statistics Austria for this right now, but it will be presented next week in press conference, but I can share the link then on the Facebook page. Then there was a question how the sample was drawn. The sample was drawn as follows. So the population was divided in 2 parts, like in people living in cities and then also people living in rural areas. These were our 2 parts the population was divided in. And then we had a 2-stage sample design, regional sample design, and we a bit oversampled people with lower education as this study was not, you didn't have to do the study. So, and we thought that we get a higher response rate there. Then finally, there was the questions for the model used. Yeah, as I told you, we had the sample, we had a sample survey and just had a low number of cases with positive events. We now used just the bootstrap confidence interval which I've shown you here. So there is no assumptions to that, but we also made other scenarios with the Klopper-Pearson interval and adaptation for the Klopper-Pearson interval. We have summarized this in a report, and maybe as the time is short, it's also easier if I share the figures of the reports with you on the Facebook page. Or so we used, what I presented to you was the bootstrap confidence interval, the upper limit of the bootstrap confidence interval. And what we also think that the adapted version of the Klopper-Pearson is very appropriate to compute upper confidence limits for this. The figures are always a bit different, but what we can see that the low number, however, if you use that method or that method, that the number is really low of people unknown infected in Austria. And then finally, there was the question for the effective sample size. I can share the screen there. It's German, so sorry for that. So, okay, I don't. Okay, I have some problems in sharing, but the effective sample size was, where do I see it? 2,300 people, and the signed effect was 1.3. Yeah, I hope the questions are answered.
Is that all, Marlene? Or do you want to add something?
Do you want to hear some more? It would be all for now.
If you have some information to share.
No, I think for now this is all. But if you want to, if there are some other questions, just ask me.
Okay, maybe you can put in the link later on. Okay.
Yeah.
For the materials. Yeah. So thank you very much. So everyone, I'm afraid that those questions will be the one and only session of discussion today. I'm really sorry that we are not be able to answer all of your questions. It doesn't mean that your question is not important or maybe irrelevant. It's merely because the discussion time is very limited. All of you have been doing great and really appreciate your enthusiasm. For those whose question has not been answered yet, could send your question to the presenter email that's shown on the screen. You can see, right? And all materials today could be accessed through the link shown below, the presenter email. So to be concluded, we can say that the role of statistics cannot be underestimated. If I can borrow the statement of Mr. Suharyanto, statistics is the trust of the subject. Therefore, no statistics, there will be no information, and of course, there is no intervention. I do want to thank once again to Mr. Suharyanto, Olivia van Dijk Timbal, and Mara Sherlyn again for staying during the whole session of today's webinar, and also Satya Pramana and Marlene Weiner for the great presentation. I believe that everyone have a great knowledge today. It's very enhancing our knowledge. It's very enjoyable presentation and discussion today. And also, last but not least, I want to thank all of the participants for being very active during the discussion session. I wish everyone staying healthy, happy, safe, and also sane in this pandemic situation. Good afternoon. I will hand it over again to the MC. Please, Mega.
Thank you, Dia. Now moving on to our last agenda, Please welcome the SB community representative for the closing remarks. Ahmad Rizal, the time is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm Rizal, the chairman of webinar from SB committee. First of all, I would like to thank the Master of Time for giving me the great honor to deliver this closing remarks speech. On behalf of the ISI and SB committee, I welcome you all and thank you very much for more than 1,500 people from 26 countries over the world for joining this webinar. This webinar was main theme COVID-19 from a statistical point of view is carried out because of collaboration between ISI and SB community in Indonesia. I hope that every participant here has a mutual understanding of the role of statistics in handling COVID-19 and will help your country a lot. I would like to say thank you too to our great keynote speaker Suharyanto, Chief of Statistics Indonesia, Olivia van Dijk Timbol from ISI representative, Mara Serlin from YSISI representative, and presenters Setia Pramana and Marlene for the new insight about statistics and COVID-19. It's such our precious experience to get great knowledge from you all. For additional information, we are from SB community also open a donation to help struggling people in COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. Everyone can participate on it with open the link s.bps.go.id/donasi_SB. Now the fund collected have reached more than 10 million rupiah and the donation will open until 7 days to go. Last but not the least, I would like to close my remarks. Thank you for your attending and participation, especially to YSI for a great collaboration. Wishing it is not the last. Hope this webinar gives a lot of benefit for all over the participants, and I hope all of us are keeping well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rizal, for the closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like to remind you all that SB Community is organizing a fundraising project to help those who are struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. Please visit s.bps.go.id/donasi_sp to donate. You could also contact us on our social media account listed below. Well, that wraps up our event for today. Thank you for all the participants that joining us today. Stay safe and good afternoon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Pak
for your
Sahrian.
participation.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, sir.
You too, sir.
Have a nice
Bye-bye.
weekend, everyone.
See you too,
Weekend.
sir.
Sir.
Thank you, Pak Setia.
Thank you.
Thank you semua Widya. Pak Hijau.
Greetings from Ecuador.
Hai.
Thank you, everyone. So nice to see you.
Finish.
Males ah.
Thanks, Fadia.
Buat apa?
Malu.
Makasih, Sal.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, kelar ya, Sal.
Alhamdulillah.
Sure. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you.
It will, certificates will be available on May.
Oh, I see.
Oh, the lovely one. Too much.
Congratulations, SB and YS.
Thank you, Chia. Bye.
It's a first event from YSISI. It's successfully finished.
They can't.